This video has been approved by the Ferengi Commerce Authority. By clicking on this video, you have agreed to all terms and agreements as defined in Article 16, Section 31 of the Ferengi Bill of Opportunities. We expect your payment in full by the term date. Collection agents will contact you shortly. Have a blessed day.
Ferengi Rule of Acquisition number 162. Even in the worst of times, someone turns a profit. Hello, fellow humans. Thank you for subscribing to the Ferengi Alliance's Masterclass installments of How to Gain a Profit in a Non-Profitable World. First and foremost, some of you may be wondering why I, a human female, is hosting this video over your normal instructor, Feldar. Well, we have recently been informed that all Ferengi business transactions must be approved by the Federation Business Bureau, a needlessly convoluted government agency concerned with business ethics. One way around this, though, is to employ a Federation citizen such as myself, circumventing the normal business rules of the Federation constituency. Sadly, decency laws also state, though, that I must be fully clothed despite being a female, which means you'll most likely be paying more attention to my words than my body, meaning you're less likely to pay for repeated viewings of this masterclass. But, we must make do with whatever human limitations the Federation wishes to bestow upon us. In any case, today's lesson we will be covering how best to make a profit during a pandemic. As many of you know, the Federation is currently in the midst of a several system-wide pandemic, and many of your fine business people out there working within Starfleet and the Federation-controlled systems may be worrying about your profits and how they may be seeing a hit during this economic downturn caused by this regrettable situation. This video will provide you with examples of how best you might expand your piles and piles of latinum and therefore ensure that you can continue being a repeat customer to the Ferengi Alliance's master classes. Now, these examples may seem distasteful to many of you who are used to what the Federation would call evolved ideals, but we here in the Ferengi Alliance understand to be simple arrogance and smugness typically found within any 21st century human culture. But as the Ferengi Rule of Acquisition number 261 states, a wealthy man can afford anything, except a conscience. Additionally, in order to help us classify this video as educational content, we will be using historical examples from a certain time period in human history known as the COVID-19 crisis, a time in Earth's history where a human nation-state known as the United States, which the Ferengi Historical Society and Gift Shop views as the peak of human society with truly evolved ideals of profit over people, demonstrated many valuable tactics any business person today could use in their pursuit of profit. With all that in mind, we shall continue right after this ad break, in which we encourage you to click as many links as possible, as well as the subscribe and thumbs up button. Ferengi Rule of Acquisition number 242. More is good. All is better. In times of a pandemic, certain resources will become much more valuable than they normally are due to a higher demand. Now, normally such items will make perfect sense, such as food replicators, decontamination gel, and hand sanitizer, but due to humans' predilection for panic, some higher demand items will make little to no sense, such as an increased demand for toilet paper. Despite there being no shortage of toilet paper, humans will worry about their derriere at the expense of any common sense, making simple paper as valuable as latinum to any smart business person. A smart Ferengi knows that the smart move is to stockpile these much desired items and sell them at a higher price, even, and in fact especially, if they're needed to help the sick. Several humans during the COVID crisis exemplified this, including one New York 43-year-old man hoarding medical supplies like masks, disinfectants, and hazmat gowns, and then selling them to doctors on the front line of the pandemic for inordinate prices, such as 1,000 masks, 2,000 gowns, and 100 hazmat gowns, and other materials for $12,000, a 700% markup. Now, this man certainly had the lobes for profit, but sadly, the federal government barred the excessive accumulation of medical resources due to doctors needing the supplies or else being exposed to the virus in which they were treating people. Well, if they didn't want to be exposed, perhaps they should have just ponied up the latinum. But government officials came to arrest the man, but he allegedly claimed to have COVID and then coughed on FBI agents while resisting arrest, attempting to follow Ferengi Rule of Acquisition number 257. When the messenger comes to appropriate your profits, kill the messenger. Sadly, this did not work out well for the hewmon. Ferengi Rule of Acquisition number 188. Not even dishonesty can tarnish the shine of profit. In a pandemic, it is very important that information regarding the origin, spread, symptoms, and effect of the disease be clearly conveyed to the public in order to avoid a panic and limit the spread of any virus. Which is why it's so easy for a smart business person to take advantage of the situation in order to make a profit. During the COVID crisis, paranoia surrounding 5G, that is a wireless communication infrastructure, not 5Gs of gold-pressed latinum, caused the perpetuation of a hoax that global elites were using 5G to spread the coronavirus pandemic.
Conspiracy theory sweeping the globe that coronavirus is caused by 5G technology.
The theory is that 5G damages the human immune system.
All of us should know what's taking place right under our noses.
What 5G actually does, it absorbs oxygen, and that's really important to know.
5G gets switched on, people drop like flies, and all of a sudden you've got the excuse because, well, there's a virus going on.
Some people in the UK bought into it so much they started lighting cell phone towers on fire.
5G burning. Burning, 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 burning.
Now, before COVID, numerous right-wing conspiracy theorists spread the pseudoscience that 5G was the cause of cancer and emitted harmful radiation, which experts and scientists found to be completely untrue, and used this misinformation to turn a profit. One Mark Steele would appear at numerous conventions with a steep booking fee and charging £3 to £5 per attendee. A human pharmacist, Jacques Bauer, not to be confused with the American jingoist icon Jack Bauer, sold $350 USB sticks called 5G BioShields, which falsely claimed to shield you from 5G radiation by converting it into beneficial radiation. One wonders how any radiation would be considered beneficial to such fragile human bodies, but alas. During the coronavirus pandemic, however, Bauer and another associate of Steele's named John Kitson sold these USB sticks, stating it would protect you from the coronavirus and 5G radiation. At the same time, other right-wing personalities like host of InfoWars and walking can of Monster energy drink Alex Jones also spread hoaxes, and tried to sell products like toothpaste as potential coronavirus treatments, claiming they would help boost your immune system, and eventually garnering the ire of the Food and Drug Administration for these false claims. But Alex Jones knows that to be a good Ferengi, you need to follow Rule 239. Never be afraid to mislabel a product. Also important to remember during these times is Rule of Acquisition number 267. If you believe it, they believe it. And it does seem like a lot of these people do believe their insane nonsense. But no one said that insanity and business sense were mutually exclusive. Ferengi Rule of Acquisition number 1. Once you have their money, you never give it back. This rule is perhaps the most important of all Ferengi precepts. Never return money once you have it. It's why no and refunds are the first two words any young Ferengi learns. During the COVID crisis, numerous businesses took this to heart, with everything from airlines to cruise ships to hotels being reluctant to return any money despite customers not being able to take advantage of their purchases, which is honestly all the better anyways for any business person. You get the money without having to provide any good or service. It's as if you already died and entered the divine treasury. And always remember, don't let something like your conscience get in the way of profit. Think like Southwest Airlines, which even went so far as to inform a troop of 24 10 and 11-year-old Girl Scouts that despite having pooled together funds and paid $7,000 to book a trip, they wouldn't be eligible for a refund. Instead, these girls got an opportunity to earn their merit badges in profit negotiation. Or you could be like banks during the COVID crisis, who were put in charge of lending small business government loans as directed by the Congress-passed stimulus bill. These banks, some like the specific Bank of America, decided to not lend out loans to any businesses who didn't have an already existing loan with the bank. Because if the government is going to be sending free money to the banks, why in heaven's name would they want to give it out to other businesses? Especially when your entire business as a bank is built around other people giving you money and then building money off of other people's desire to have your money. It's almost as if making a system that requires money, but then incentivizing large groups of people to hoard said money isn't in the interest of anyone except those of you who are able to get money in the first place. Because, like we said at the top, once you have their money, you never give it back. Ferengi Rule of Acquisition number 211. Employees are the rungs on the ladder of success. Don't hesitate to step on them. This is another important rule. Employees are a resource, and an expendable one at that. If you build your economy right, by placing a metaphorical gun to the heads of lower-income humans who need to work simply in order to feed their families, it doesn't matter how badly you treat your employees, as there will always be more willing to work, even if it means risking their lives. Companies like Amazon and GameStop certainly understood this, placing their employees right on the front lines of the COVID pandemic. Despite numerous American states ordering the closure of any non-essential businesses, GameStop claimed to be an essential business in order to stay open, ordering their employees to continue working inside stores and stating that they would protect them by buying these employees hand sanitizer. Hand sanitizer that they never actually followed through on buying in the first place. And I'm certain that buying a customer's used COVID-covered copy of Final Fantasy VII Remake is certainly an essential business during a pandemic. Even more so, though, Amazon also refused to help its employees by not providing protective gear to its workers, time to clean their hands, or any ability to maintain social distancing, ensuring that Amazon would maximize their profit output at such a crucial time when its delivery of essential goods like sex toys were needed all around the United States. Or how about that essential business and American pastime McDonald's, which have been doing the exact same thing during the COVID crisis? Remember rule number 193. It's never too late to fire the staff. When employees criticized their lack of safety measures, Amazon rightly fired these employees in retaliation for daring to speak out against their benevolent employer who kindly let them work themselves to death in dangerous conditions. And Amazon even planned smear campaigns at internal meetings against former employees like one Chris Smalls, claiming that he was not smart or articulate. It goes to show you, like rule number 285 states, no good deed goes unpunished. But speaking of good deeds, there will be numerous employees on the front lines of any pandemic, such as healthcare workers, the ones working endless days and nights right next to people with COVID-19, people who will most assuredly have PTSD after this experience by having to risk their lives and watching people die on a daily basis. But just remember to be like Dr. Ann Kablinsky, the CEO of Partners Healthcare, the largest healthcare system in Massachusetts, who makes at least $2 million a year to up to $6 million a year. The good doctor signed an email from the company informing the healthcare workers that worked for her that they would not be receiving any hazard or crisis pay for dealing with coronavirus cases. However, she did take the important measure to state that she has, quote, gratitude to all of you for providing exceptional patient care and for supporting each other and the community during these unprecedented times. As always, she was sending her thoughts and prayers, and nothing else. Ferengi Rule of Acquisition number 23. Nothing is more important than your health, except for your money. This gets us to our final tip. You see, as all the above cases have showcased, the key to making profit during a pandemic is to ensure that at all costs, you value profit over the health and safety of other humans, and even yourself. That was the entire point of the United States economy before the COVID pandemic anyways. Tie everyone's benefits like healthcare to their ability to work, thus necessitating that people must work in order to get their basic needs met. And sure, a pandemic would make it harder for people to work and thus survive and get their basic needs met. But even if they do work to get that sweet, sweet healthcare, they'll be risking their lives just to be able to work. It's a double-edged sword, and one that works brilliantly to ensuring that you continually profit even during the worst of times. That's because the goal of a capitalist economy like America was never to make sure people stayed healthy and happy. The goal was to make money at all costs, even human ones. Ask not what your profit can do for you, but what you can do for your profit, as the rules of acquisition say. It's why many people during the COVID crisis thought of such wonderful ideas as voluntary infections for workers, letting people deliberately get infected with the coronavirus so that they could quickly go back to work. Never mind that infection would certainly mean many people would die as a result. It's all important that we get to work and make that profit. We need herd immunity, as they say, a concept that is generally applied to animals being raised for the slaughter, but somehow aptly applies to those working so that the economy can be kept running. As a true human prophet, Glenn Beck once said,
"Even if we all get sick, I'd rather die than kill the country, because it's not the economy that's dying, it's the country."
All of your workers can die at the altar of profit, as they should. But for you, intelligent business person that you are, that doesn't necessarily have to apply to you. Remember the 153rd rule of acquisition. You can't make a deal if you're dead. That's why it's very important that while everyone is working towards making you a profit during a pandemic, you must remember to protect yourself. I mean, what is all this profit being made for if you don't survive? Certainly not the workers helping you make it, that's for sure. Doug Rushkoff, a media theorist during Earth's 21st century, was invited to deliver a keynote speech at a resort to a bunch of investment bankers, who then peppered him with questions about what to do during the event. Or as Rushkoff described it, the euphemism for environmental collapse, social unrest, nuclear explosion, unstoppable virus, or Mr. Robot hack that takes everything down. These rich bankers are not worried about how to save society after these events, but how to save their own skins, asking how to control their armed guards that would be needed to protect their compounds from angry mobs, possibly by using shock collars or special combination locks on the food supply that only the investment bankers would know the combinations for. These are all reasonable measures that you should consider during the current Federation pandemic crisis, so that your profit can survive well past the point of it actually being worth anything once the society that helped you make it crumbles to the ground around you, leaving only yourself and a few of your rich compatriots. As the 20th rule of acquisition states, he who dives under the table today lives to profit tomorrow. And that ends our lesson for today. As always, don't forget to pay your collection agents for watching this video, and as a special added bonus, we have temporarily placed a hold on all your bank accounts to ensure a quick and speedy transfer of latinum. We hope you stay safe during this crisis and, more importantly, stay profitable. Hey there, audience. This is actually Jessie here. As I hope is obvious, everything that has been in this video up until this point has been satire. And I hope that despite its deeply, deeply dark subject matter, that it was at least able to get you to have a little laugh or two at this whole situation. But I do want to talk about why I made this video, especially since it's so directly political, which is, again, not something that I've been doing a lot of, but have been doing a lot more recently because of my frustration and anger with a lot of the things going on in the world, and especially the United States right now. Currently, right now, we are in the midst of a pandemic, and it's one that requires all of us to come together, to think in terms of community and unity, to sacrifice together so that we can eventually survive and thrive together. But there have been some right now who have used this pandemic as a chance to benefit and think of only themselves. And others still who think that profit and the economy are more important than human lives. For many of us, I deeply understand that we're all incredibly scared for our economic futures. I mean, I am honestly quite terrified at the moment. I've lost a lot of my freelance work and my forward career momentum, and my current time at my full-time employment is in a kind of precarious place, causing me daily worry and anxiety. And worry that I might not be able to pay my future bills going into the future. Those were words that I strung together. And that's not even to mention my fear that I might not have a stable financial future and that it's slipping further and further away from me. And I know that there are millions more out there, potentially many of you watching, who are even in worse situations than I am. But much of this fear comes from systems that have been put in place that have allowed this to happen. The current pandemic didn't create these issues, it just finally put a greater emphasis on how they harm us all, and are only really here to benefit those who already benefit the most, or those who are willing to compromise their basic decency in an attempt to put themselves first. This video was just meant to point out some of these instances and get you thinking about them, about why these systems and incentives may exist, and why the Ferengi as a commentary on capitalism existed in the first place in Star Trek. And if you want some more information than this video provided, there are some great primer videos that I've linked down in the doobly-doo from Some More News and Carlos Maza, as well as a few other creators as well, along with some links to my citations for the information used directly in this video, and I'd highly recommend that you check all of them out, especially the videos. As Star Trek has always told us, this is a time for us to work together, to think together. And I am so glad that I get to be part of a community of wonderful people. We have each other, and we always will as long as we keep that in mind, that we are in this together, always. And I thank you, as always, for your kindness during these times to myself and to many, many others out there. Anyways, thank you so much for watching this video. As always, don't forget to subscribe and give the thumbs up and all those YouTube things. It really, really, really does help me out, especially in these times. Even if you just like hit the like button and leave a random comment saying, hey, video was cool, that actually really, really does help me at this moment in the algorithm and does help me have a little bit more financial safety net, even though it may seem like a small thing overall. And if you want to help me out even more, I would greatly appreciate if you can go help me out over my Patreon page. It helps make these videos better. It helps me, feel a little bit more secure in my economic future. And also you get yourself some cool stuff as well, like maybe some videos that you get to see a little bit early, as well as your name in some videos as well. But regardless of if you like, subscribe, comment, or give to my Patreon, I'm just glad as always that you stopped by, and I hope that you, as always, live long and prosper. And special thanks to my commander level and above Patreons, especially right now: Eli Bergmas, Stefan Schuhart, Boyd and Mary Beth Earl, Wellington Marcus, Lal Lindley, Marika Kuyechin, Munir Amlani, and Mystic the Monachite.